Hello YouTube, I'm Drominicus, and this is the second episode of Thorsday. And today on Thorsday I'm going to be taking a look at an Old Norse god by the name of Baldr. I do hope that you guys enjoy this episode, and hope that you'll learn a couple of things too. The name Baldr is thought to have originated from the word prince in Old Norse, and that actually does make sense given the mythos that he is actually the second son of Odin and Frigg. And now there has been another translation of it, meaning bold, which related to Balder. One would think that that actually makes sense as well, given the similarities in the actual words. So it could mean prince, but it also could mean bold. Either which one actually works, one mythologically, and the other just in a grammatical sense. So take from that what you will. Baldr was often depicted as a very handsome, beautiful man, sometimes with a beard, sometimes without, but it was constant that he was always very handsome, so much so that he in fact did have a literal brilliance surrounding him, so he often shone with this brilliant light, showing exactly how wonderfully beautiful he really was. While Baldr wasn't worshipped in one particular region, the worship of Norse gods as a whole was done in ancient Scandinavia, which was an area comprised of Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, Norway, and parts of Germany. As far as symbols are concerned, when it comes to the Norse pantheon, there is a distinct lack of archaeological evidence of various things with that pantheon. Now, in particular, the god Baldr doesn't have very much associated with him aside from what little lore that we have left over in regards to his mythos. Now, for his depiction, we can see oftentimes him surrounded by that brilliance, as mentioned in the previous section. So really, the only thing that you could say would be a symbol would be that it is that brilliance. Not exactly a symbol or an icon to be carried around for certain, but something that is usually present whenever he is being shown in any drawing or painting. As Baldr was essentially a very beautiful, handsome sort of god with that shining brilliance, one would assume that his domains are typically non-aggressive, and from everything that I've shown, aside from maybe one or two little things, that is generally true. His domains that I've found thus far have been love, peace, forgiveness, and beauty. Now, in some of the different texts that have been found with Baldr, he has been referred to in a more warlike manner, having various metaphors about him or different euphemisms, etc., basically regarding weaponry or some form of warlike behavior or violent, but it's not very often seen. He's typically more of a passive or peaceful sort of god. So these domains of love, peace, forgiveness, and beauty are more often than not associated with him. Although no concrete evidence exists of exactly how Baldr in particular was worshipped, we can only assume that he was worshipped in the same manner as the rest of the Norse gods. Now, these worships took place in different forms. One such was the blot. Now, the blot was a sacramental feast or meal that took place in places such as sacred groves. And at these bloats, there were sometimes horses that were sacrificed to the gods. Other forms of worship included at-home worship, just in the comfort of your own home, they worship their deities, as well as roadside or field or, well, nearby anywhere, basically, wherever they wanted them, these piles of rock and stone called horgur, and they would worship at these horgur to their deities as well. Sort of an on-the-go worship, if you will. Sort of like the roadside shrines in Japan. Now, in addition to these simple and, frankly, common means of worship, because many different religions had feasts and roadside shrines and whatnot and at-home worship. In addition to these, it has been thought that there were temples dedicated to the gods, to the Aesir, which were the three chief gods, those being Odin, Frigg, and Thor. But there hasn't been any archaeological evidence that's turned up in regards to that. Now, there has been a theory that there was a temple at Uppsala in Sweden to the Aesir, but again, nothing has turned up in regards to that. There was also thought to be a central place of worship at two other locations, one being Skiringsal and the other being Leger, or Legre. Not entirely certain how to pronounce that one, I'm sorry. But yes, those were thought to have been larger areas of worship, but again, nothing really has been found to solidify these theories. So really, we're left with those three originals that I had mentioned, and no temples as of yet. We may yet find something. When it comes to Norse mythology, Baldr is basically the equivalent of Sean Bean, in that he is more remembered for his deaths than anything else. So, what exactly happened with Baldr? Well, the story goes that one night he had a terrible vision of his own demise. Now, upon waking, he told his mother, and his mother, being the excellent mother that she was, decided, you know what, I'm going to prevent this death. And so she went across all the realms, spoke to everyone and everything, and got their oaths that they would not harm Baldr. So upon returning with this joyous news, everybody took it in stride and said, you know what, this is great news. We're going to start tossing stuff at Baldr just to prove how invincible he is. And Baldr, being the god of merriment, joy, love, peace, happiness, all that wonderful stuff, took it in stride and said, yeah, you know what? Go ahead, toss stuff at me, throw stuff at me, shoot stuff at me, it's alright, I'm not going to be harmed. And Loki, being the trickster god that he was, said, you know what, I don't like this whole invincibility thing. And he went across all the realms, determined to find somebody or something that Frigg had not gotten an oath from. Sure enough, he found little old Mistletoe. And Mistletoe told Loki that, sure enough, he was not asked to give an oath because he was seen as not harmful in the least. So Loki got a shaft of mistletoe and gave it to Baldr's blind brother, Hoder. And Hoder shot the shaft, wanting to give respect to his brother and prove his invincibility, and ended up killing Baldr. Now, in case you didn't know, the death of Baldr is one of the signs of Ragnarok, which is the Norse equivalent of the apocalypse. Now, being that it was a sign of Ragnarok, you would think that they wouldn't have done this, but I guess they didn't have any foresight. So he ended up getting burned, as is the tradition, on his ship, which was the Hringhorni, I don't know how to pronounce it, but he ended up getting burned on his ship and was sent down to meet with Hel, the goddess of their underworld, and he stayed there. And what had happened is that they sent another one of Baldr's brothers down to try and bring him back, but ended up couldn't do it, and he stayed there until the end of Ragnarok. So yeah, that's how Baldr went. He's pretty much known only for that story, and it's not an overly great ending for him. So yes, I do hope that you guys enjoyed this. This has been my second episode of Thorsday around Baldr, the Norse god of beauty, love, and all that wonderful stuff. And I do hope that you stay tuned for next week for my next episode of Thorsday, as well as all my other shows. So anyway, I'm Drominicus. I'm out. Have a great one.